So thank you guys for all joining us this evening. My name is Lindsay Ryback, and I'm the Senior Product Manager of Compression at L&R USA. Today, we are here to talk about enhancing your nighttime self-care routine with TributeNight. So talking about the importance of nighttime care, as well as all of the things that you can get that comes with a TributeNight. I've got my help here. I can't do these things alone. We've got Esme Sanchez, our Junior Product Manager of Compression. So she's going to be in the background, following up in those chat boxes, as well as introducing the poll questions that we'll be going through. And then she also will be managing the Q&A at the end. Thanks to anybody who submitted questions in advance. Those ones will be addressed first, and then we'll address the other ones that come along. Make sure to put your questions in the Q&A section, not in the chat box, because that's where we're going to be looking to go through those questions. But you can feel free to put some comments in. You just will have to make sure that anything that's specific question you want answered at the end actually has that built in to the Q&A section so we can answer it. So without further ado, we're going to get started here. So jumping into it. So let's start with what's the importance of nighttime care. So I think many of you know lymphedema presents itself around the clock. It's not just this 9 to 5 job. You can see here, we're all here after 5 o'clock Central. Depending on where you are, it's getting close to the end of the day or it's in the evening for you. And so it's really important to make sure that your lymphedema is being addressed around the clock, because the swelling doesn't just go away when you get to the nighttime. And so you do want to make sure that you're looking at it. So one of the other things that you're looking at too is you get through therapy, you get through that intensive phase where you're bandaging, you're spending that time really aggressively working with your lymphedema therapist to be able to reduce that volume. And then you leave and you go home, and now you're in charge of self-care. And so this is going to help you with that successful volume reduction. So keeping that limb volume down to where you were able to get that success from your intensive phase of treatment with your therapist. But adding a nighttime garment can also, for many patients, help provide further reduction. So not everyone will experience further reduction depending on where your swelling is at. But we do see a lot of people do have that further reduction when it comes to their addition of nighttime care into their treatment protocols, especially when you're wearing that daytime garment in complement throughout the day. You also may wonder, why is there all this foam inside of the garment? So you've got all this foam technology that's built into the garment, and you wonder, what's the point of it? And so if you remember, you may have used in your bandaging process with your lymphedema therapist some foam into the to the bandaging underneath there. And you may have noticed some of those impressions that it left on the skin. Well, the reason that nighttime garments having that foam is so critical is because that foam actually nestles into your tissue, and it creates this micro massage effect, which is going to help address those soft tissue changes to help get rid of that fibrosis or help it from creeping back into your life. So before nighttime garments, what were people doing? So we want to kind of look through that evolution. I started the company 10 years ago almost, and I'm looking back and thinking, what did patients do before these great garments that are available now? Well, they bandaged, and it's super effective. But the challenge is sometimes it's hard to apply. It's also very time consuming, from putting it on to taking the bandages off, to also washing, drying, re-rolling them, making sure they're ready to apply the next time. And so that can take up a lot of time. It also can be a little bit bulkier with bandages, and you may not have the mobility that you want to have. And so while bandaging is really effective, the nighttime garments really allow that time saving, that ease of application, and it's going to help with a little bit more mobility throughout the evening and night. So when we talk about that intensive phase of therapy, when you're going and working with your lymphedema therapist to get that reduction, I think many of you guys have experienced this, where you want that reduction of swelling, you want to get that lymph fluid drainage out of the congested area. You want to help address some of that skin fibrosis. So if you've had that hardened skin, you want to soften that skin, and you really want to have a better quality of life. And so then you can get to these manageable sizes where you're like, yes, this is the progress that I wanted to be able to achieve. And so now you're going to leave relieve and then be able to maintain this at home. So when we look at some of the clinical pieces out there, we put some of these in here so that you can see some reference to what are clinicians saying about the value of nighttime care for their patient population. And so if you have a nighttime garment, you may have experienced some of these things, but it's going to help prevent rebound swelling. So what's rebound swelling? It's when that swelling is going to increase from where you left when you plateaued at therapy. And so you don't want that swelling coming back, things getting worse. You want to maintain that volume reduction, and you want to make sure that any of that hardened skin or fibrosis stays away. So some people may have that thickening of the tissue, that fibrosis, hardened skin coming back, especially if they aren't using those foam type products. And so the nighttime care really helps address that to help keep that away. So Esme is going to start off with the poll question number 1. You guys should see a pop-up on your screen, and then you'll be able to answer it like a little quiz question. And we just want to kind of get a sense of the room and have people share some of their feedback as well.
Yes, thank you, Lindsay. I just launched the first poll question. I see some answers trickling in already. Give it a couple more seconds. All right, I will be ending the poll. As you can see here, 98% answered that they do wear compression at night. 2% answered that they do not wear compression at night.
Awesome. Thanks, Esme. And thank you guys for all participating. It's helpful for us to understand where everyone's knowledge is at with nighttime compression so that we can really make sure this is really tailored to you. But we definitely want to make sure that we really address all of those questions needed for that 2% that haven't gotten nighttime garment yet, so that we can really help give you that education you need. All right. So then I'm going to go to the next. So we've got one more quick poll question.
Yes, poll question number 2. So how often do you wear your compression at night?
Ooh, the answers are coming in hot.
Yeah, there's a couple more seconds here. All right.
Wow, great.
Yep, so 81% answered that they use it daily, and 14% as needed, and then with 2% using it weekly and not currently wearing any compression at night.
Awesome. Well, that's awesome to hear. I'm so glad to hear that so many of you guys are using it on a daily basis. I think that nighttime care is so critical. And so it's really great to see that in all of you that have come today and still wanting to learn more, and hope that we can help provide more education on this throughout the rest of the webinar here. So thank you guys. All right. So then jumping into it, I think all of you guys probably are wearing a daytime garment, especially if you're wearing your nighttime garment daily. So when you look at your daytime garments, you're going to see you're going to have maybe a flat knit, which is a knit garment that's going to be manufactured where it's laying flat off the machine and then they're going to close it with a seam. Or you may have an adjustable compression wrap, so that you can have some of that adjustability throughout the day as needed, and sometimes can be a little bit easier to apply. So these are going to have a really high containment to them. So when you're working throughout the day, when you're walking, when you have that movement, you're going to need more resistance against that limb that you're putting it on, or on your head or on your chest, because you're getting that movement. So your body needs to be able to contain that swelling more. And so these are going to be a much lower stretch material, similar to your short stretch bandaging, that's going to contain that swelling really well. So at nighttime, you're in that low activity mode. You're not moving around all throughout the night, running around the house. You're kind of moving slowly. You're relaxing, maybe watching a movie, maybe cooking dinner, but mostly sitting down and relaxing on the couch. And so you can think of an evening nighttime garment like your sweatpants. These are going to be something you put on. It's going to be more of a medium stretch. So it's still going to give you the containment that's going to be on the limb, but it's going to be a little bit more comfortable. And then it's addressing something different than your daytime garments because of that foam technology that's getting into the tissue, helping address any of the fibrosis or hardened skin, or helping keep that skin healthy and soft so it doesn't creep back into your life. So more of a medium stretch when you look at your evening and nighttime care, and daytime is going to be that high containment to really work with you as you're working throughout the day. So now we're going to go through TributeNight. And so we're going to talk through the different features that you can get with TributeNight. I think it's really important for someone who wears these garments to really understand what are your options? What's available to you? Of course, anything that we covered today, you definitely want to meet with your medical professional to see if it's right for you and make sure that it's going to meet the clinical needs that they're setting you up for. But we want to make sure you have access to this information so you can see what is out there. So with TributeNight, we have been making these garments for over 25 years in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. They are 100% custom to your unique measurements and needs. So we want to make sure that these garments are really specifically tailored for you. They're evening and nighttime wear, but we've seen more and more that people are loving that for low activity as well. So if you're spending your Sunday morning drinking coffee, watching, maybe some shows on TV or something, and just want to have a chill Sunday, you don't have to quite put on your daytime garments at that point. You're in a low activity mode, so you can think sometimes outside of just evening and nighttime care and really look at when are you in moments of low activity. Throughout COVID, we had a lot of patients sharing feedback that they actually were wearing it when they were working remotely. For those people that were working remote, they were like, I'm sitting at a desk, I'm not leaving my house. While other people are wearing their pajamas or sweatpants, I think I'm going to just wear my TributeNight. And so this is similar to that too. And it's because you're in that low activity mode. So that's kind of what we're looking at here. We've seen people sharing this. So at home, I've heard people using it on planes, on Sunday mornings, any of those low activity modes. Those are great times to be able to look at that. So here's our building. It's in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Each garment is handmade by a full team of people. Probably at least 4 or 5 people touch every garment that goes out the door from all of the entire process of building this garment. They're looking at those measurements that were submitted. What are the things that you're looking to get out of the garment? Your therapist is looking to get out of the garment, and then hand making them in our facility here. So just wanted to share a little picture of what our building looks like. So TributeNight. So for those of you that don't know, a lot of times daytime garments come in mostly the arms and the legs. And one of the things that we know is that with lymphedema, it can happen anywhere from your head down to your toe. So we can make garment styles to cover any of those regions. So wherever the lymphedema is presenting itself, we can make garments to address that. So you can see here, we've got some head and neck styles. We've got some shirts, some bodysuit shorts. So you guys probably all on this call have different styles that you own. We can do some unique things that we do a lot of unique things for specific patients where maybe we do a long sleeve on one arm because there's more of that lymphedema present there. But on the other side, you don't really have much, but maybe you have some up into this chest area. And so you want that other side to have a sleeve. So we can really tailor these garments to those specific measurements. So I just wanted to show just a sampling of what we can do. So many of you have probably gone through all of your lymphedema treatment and have seen that you had this light, gentle massage that's helping direct the fluid out of that congested area. So that's called manual lymphatic drainage, or MLD. So here are just some pictures that probably bring back those memories, or maybe when you go to your follow-up appointments with your therapist, you're able to see that this is what they're doing for you. And so that is what we have built into the TributeNight. You may have noticed there's these different channels that go into the garment. You may have them on a diagonal, you may have them straight. And this is determined by the medical professional based on the needs. So there's different types of techniques that come with manual lymphatic drainage where they're massaging it to maybe the collateral pathway to try to bypass where that congestion is, to try to get around that, or maybe sending it to the primary pathways of lymphedema. So just routing it into the direction that they are doing clinically. So these channeling options are designed based on those principles, where they can choose the channeling to direct the fluid where they want it to go. And so the chevron typically is used for secondary lymphedema, and vertical is typically used for primary lymphedema. We can do hybrid channeling, and the therapists are really making the determination here. So there could be a chance that you have primary lymphedema, but your therapist is going to recommend the chevron. So that could happen, but typically this is made at the medical professional level, but just wanted to give you some explanation of why those are there. So that's helping mimic that pathway. The next thing, which a lot of people don't know about, is our profile height. So we've got a lot of feedback that some people love the pillowy original profile that we've always offered. But over the last couple of years, we've actually had a lot of people transition to the low profile. So it is the same amount of foam, it's just smaller chip foam pieces and more channeling sewn in, so it can be thinner. So you can see here just a side view where you have your original profile that's a little bit thicker, and then you've got your low profile, which is about half the thickness. So if you're looking for something to be able to take away from, maybe some of the bulkiness of it, you may be able to have this as an option. We've seen that they've been both very effective, the same amount of effectiveness for a patient presentation, but we've seen that maybe more people prefer the low profile because they want something thinner, or maybe some people prefer the original profile because they kind of like the pillowiness of it. So this is really based on your comfort level. And so definitely something to talk to your therapist about for your next garment. Then when we look at the foam, I just wanted to go in through the details of the foam again, because it's something that we get asked a lot. When you're looking at the garments, you're like, why is the garment a little bit thicker than your daytime garment? And it's because that foam's in there. But the foam is super critical in terms of what it's doing. And so the foam, like in the multi-layer bandaging principles, they're integrated underneath that compression. It's pressing it into the tissue. And so that's what we're simulating here with the TributeNight. So we've got a medium stretch fabric, which is helping press that in, and it's creating this micro massage effect of the foam technology. The reason why there's kind of those ups and lows, high and lows of the foam, and you can see kind of that chipness to it, that chip foam is allowing more points of pressure into your tissue to help get more of that stimulation versus a flat foam, like foam that would be in a packing shipment box or something like that. That foam is then helping break up, soften the fibrotic tissue, and help promote long-term skin health, especially in the self-care phase. It will help provide more oxygen to the skin. So anytime your skin can breathe more, the better. And then it'll help maintain that reduction of volume and can help further reduce. Some fun facts about our foam: it is first use, so it's very hygienic, and we have passed rigorous testing for the CertiPure certification, proving that it's a safe foam to use. So no concerns there. It also is this great proprietary blend that we put together that has irregular shapes and sizes to our specifications, and we can do that in both profile height options. Our foam is also US made, which is great to be able to support the US market. So just wanted to share what this looks like on the skin. So you can see this garment of a TributeNight on the leg, and you can see what it looks like after. Since many of you guys are wearing these garments, you may already be familiar about this, but for that 2% that isn't wearing a nighttime garments, don't be afraid. A lot of people will, when they first get a nighttime garment, they're like, what happened to my leg? Why are there all these impressions and lines? This will go away within 15 minutes, but it's showing that that foam is really nestling into the tissue and helping get into the tissue to break up that fibrosis or help keep the skin soft. So this patient specifically actually met me at a conference. She got the garment and she talked to her therapist and said, I really want to try the low profile height. And the therapist was a little bit concerned. She was like, I've never tried the low profile height. I've had good success with the original profile height. I don't want to try it. Well, they decided to still give it a try. And this patient saw that they saw just as effective results with the low profile. So it was really cool to see real patients trying this out and seeing the effectiveness. But these are what the impressions look like when you first get that on your skin. So just keep that in mind. So on to the next poll question.
Yes, poll number 3. Have you tried the TributeNight in low profile height? Answers are trickling in. A couple more
Nice.
seconds. All right. So it looks like 43% of you have tried low profile and 57% have not.
Awesome. Thanks, Esme. And that is great. It's great to see that some people have tried it. For those of you that haven't, I highly recommend looking into it. If you're looking for something a little bit thinner, talk to your medical professional about it when you get your next garment. But we have seen so many people pleased with it. And I hope those of you that are currently having a low profile garment or that have tried one in the past have seen some good experience with it as well. So the next piece is you get to pick your color. So we've got 5 different fabrics that were ones that we offer. And so it's black color, slate, blue, purple, and raspberry. But what's great about this fabric is that it's cool core. And so we had patients calling us for a long time saying, we really love our nighttime garment, but it can get hot. And so we're always looking at innovative fabrics and things like that. And so we found that the cool core actually prevents a much better wicking ability away from the skin to help you keep you cooler while wearing the garment. Of course, it's not cool to the touch and people get warm when they sleep, but it's something to keep in mind that we're always looking at what we can do to bring to these types of garments to make them more comfortable for you to wear. And so quite a few years ago, we actually brought this cool core technology into the garment. And so we've seen that this is going to allow for better wicking away from the skin. And so this is going to help keep you cooler than the previous fabric underneath that garment. So the next question, what TributeNight color is your favorite? So we've got those. I'll put them back on the screen so you can see them. Doesn't have to be one that you already wear. You could just pick what your favorite is. Maybe you didn't know some of these colors were available.
All right.
Awesome.
So black is the winner with 32%.
Yep, and that is definitely what we see. We always think all the colors, different colors are going to win, but time and time again, people's favorite color is the black one. But I definitely think that purple is the close second. So it definitely seems consistent with this group as well. All right, so some of you may have modifications and some of you may just have the garment in its existing design without anything added to it. But we do like to show these modifications because they are really helpful. And so they may help enhance some of your experience, may help donning be better, may help just provide better support for you while wearing the garment. So one of the things that we've found is maybe people that have a harder time pulling garments on, if you really struggle, maybe you don't have that dexterity in your hand due to some sort of injury or something like that. A lot of people like to add a zipper because then you can just zipper it up. It has a really nice long handle to it. So that is a great option. We also have adjustable panels. And so the adjustability can be built into the garment. And that's really good for if you're expecting further reduction. But also, I don't know about all of you on the call, but we have a lot of patients calling and saying that they fluctuate a lot, that some days they're higher, they have a higher amount of swelling. Some days they have a lower amount of swelling. And so they're hoping to get more control, and it's a custom garment and they're worried it might not fit if they fluctuate a lot. So adjustability is awesome to be able to add to these garments because it's going to allow you to adjust the garment based on where your swelling is at that day. And so that can be really helpful when it comes to addressing that. We can also do straps that have a little hole in it that you can put your finger through so you can get a better pull to it. And so that's another option in the Velcro adjustability that can be built into the garment. One point to note though, is if you do add the Velcro, only the black comes in a Velcro receptive. So the garment will have to be black on the outside. So that's something to keep in mind. One fun fact about the colors though, while we're talking about how black has to be the color if you use Velcro, if you choose that the inside of the garment, you don't want to be the same color as the outside, It's something that not a lot of people know, but you could put a special request to your therapist or to your fitter and say, I want a pink in the inside and black on the outside. So that is something that you can do that a lot of people don't know about. But now you guys get to know since you're on this call today. We also can add in pull-up loops. So these are really great, especially when you're trying to bend down and it's maybe challenging to be able to pull that up, especially over that heel portion. And so we can add any sort of pull-up loops to be able to help pull that up. We can add snap tapes. So you can see the snap tapes here. We can add non-skid pads, and that could be added to the garment itself or the cover if you get an outer jacket cover. For a facial swelling, we can add lip bridges to be able to go right over here to help address that swelling that can be detachable, so you don't need to leave them on all day. And we do also have digit spacers. So we mentioned the outer jacket or that cover that goes over it. It's a nice stretchy athletic material that can go over the garment. So when would you use something like this? This is great to be able to protect the garment all the time. I highly recommend putting these on. It's going to help protect the garment in case you spill something. It's going to help protect the garment from maybe collecting cat hair, dog hair, things like that, pills. And so it's just a great cover. It's going to provide a little extra containment on the outside for a little bit more control, but it's also going to be great for just helping keep the garment clean. We also have the variable compression jacket, which also shows some bigger pictures of, because I think it's a little bit easier to be able to see that application. But if anyone's worn an adjustable daytime garment, like our Ready Wrap or something else, those are low stretch material garments that can be applied. This is like putting a Ready Wrap or an adjustable compression wrap over top of your TributeNight, which is great for someone who is highly fluctuating or just needs more management and control. So we'll jump into it here so you can see some better pictures, but just a quick high level view. You're going to still put your nighttime garment on your TributeNight. Then you can open up the garment and you can slide that VCJ over top, and then you can adjust the adjustable straps and zip that up. So here's a close-up of some pictures that I think can be helpful. So you can see here, you've got the zipper here, and you can see we've got adjustability around the bottom and on the back side of this. These garments are custom made for over top of your TributeNight garment. So when you order a TributeNight garment, if this is something that you and your therapist thinks would be beneficial, we highly recommend getting one of these with your garment. It's made of a low stretch material, and it's going to provide that extra support and containment, which is really good for that hard to manage swelling or when there is fluctuation. So it's a nice additive. It's custom made for over top, so it is going to perfectly fit over top of that garment. But it is an accessory that a lot of people don't know about, but it does provide a lot of extra support. And I've even seen people that wear the garment during the nighttime when they go to sleep, but maybe use this more in the evening or the low activity times throughout the day to get more of that control. So next up is the SureFit guarantee. So the TributeNight garments do come with more than just the garment itself. So the garment itself is 100% custom, and we want it to fit properly. So in the first 45 days from when we get that garment shipped out of our facility, we actually will work with you and your therapist or your fitter to be able to remake the garment if it's not fitting right. We don't want you guys to have a garment that doesn't fit you properly. That's not benefiting you at all. So we want to make sure that in that first 45 days that we're going to adjust and alter that garment to make it right for you. So that's something that we definitely want to focus on. Also, from the 45 days from, after that first fit, you got that garment fitting just right to the end of the 1-year warranty of the garment, we will take that garment back and do a reduction to it. So we won't make the garment bigger, but if you are reducing, that is something that we do offer that people, a lot of times, if they're compliant, if you guys are compliant both day and night, a lot of people may still get that further reduction. So we can take that garment into those improved measurements. And so that is a service that comes complimentary with the garment itself. And then, of course, you get your 1-year material and manufacturing guarantee. So that's in that full 1 year. So if you do get that card in the mail, that little postcard size, you can either register your garment online, or you can register it through that card and sending it in the mail. But with that garment registered, we can then honor this guarantee. So please make sure to fill out that information if you get a garment, so that we can make sure that you can get all of these great services that come with the garment itself. Something else that we get asked a lot is care instructions. So wanted to just talk through this as well. So washing, machine wash. You can machine wash this. It doesn't have to be hand washed. We recommend permanent press or some sort of delicate cycle. You're going to want to do warm water, and you can wash it with other laundry items. I just would be careful with what you wash it with, because you don't want it to collect pills on the inside or the outside, because aesthetically it could be bad for the outside, but in the inside, you don't want any of that to be just irritating on the skin. So just be careful with what you put it in the laundry with. You also want to make sure that you're using a mild detergent. So that's really important. You don't want one with all of the additives. As much as they smell good and all of those things, they actually fill up and clog the pores of the fabric and make it less breathable. So you do want to make sure that you're using just a mild detergent. So one without all the fabric softeners and things like that added to it. Then we also say no fabric softeners and definitely no bleach. If you do have the Velcro straps to it, just make sure that you're securing those in place on the garment before you wash them. Because if you don't attach them, they're going to attach and collect all of that lint and things like that that could be in the wash from the other laundry or from the garment itself. And then that will fill inside of that Velcro receptiveness, and it will make it so it doesn't stick as well. So that may be a reason why sometimes Velcro doesn't stick as well, is because of that. And then do not dry clean. In terms of drying, you want to tumble dry on permanent press. And so that's something to keep in mind there. Just make sure it's a low heat. You don't want this high heat. So you want to make sure that it's a low heat. And one of the things that a lot of people have found is it's a little noisy, but if you throw in a couple tennis balls, that might help beat out some of that water that's in the garment. Then one of the other tips and tricks that we've seen is that if you want to lay your garment out and then you want to maybe press that out on a towel and try to press out some of that water from the washing machine before you put in the dryer, that could also help save some time there. And then definitely don't iron the garment either. So then we're going to go into the material content. We do get this question a lot, is what is the garment made out of? It's made out of polyurethane, polyester, and spandex. There's no natural rubber latex in it. So these are the three different material contents that are involved in the garment. And so just keep that in mind in case there's any sort of skin sensitivities. But we like to be transparent about what is the garment made out of. So here's some feedback from someone. Many of you guys are wearing nighttime garments already. This patient, she's in Wisconsin. Some of you may know her, I'm not sure. She was a part of the Learn organization, which is when I met her, was at a run walk in northern Wisconsin. But she had said that she loves her tribute night because it's custom to her, and she's different from all of you. She doesn't like to go a night without her garment, and it really helps provide that control that's needed in the nighttime to be able to really help support. I've also talked to other patients that's found that once they wear their nighttime garments during the evening and nighttime, they found that they get less leg fatigue or pain in their legs throughout the day, even when they're not wearing the nighttime garment. So just adding that integration into the protocols and into your routine that you're going to do on a daily basis. So we've got another poll question here.
Yes, poll number 5. This is the last poll question. When was the last time you ordered a night garment?
And then Esme, while those are trickling in, I can't see it on the screen, but it would be great if you can also maybe share before we end the webinar so everyone has access to it, all of our contact information in case there's any follow-up questions. That would be great.
I will be putting that in that chat box.
Awesome.
All right. So it looks like 24% was 1 to 2 years ago, 22% less than 6 months ago and less than a year ago, and then 22% as well for 3 to 5 years ago, and then 7% more than 6 years ago.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's great to see kind of, it's actually seems like a pretty even spread throughout the first four options there. So definitely interesting to see where everyone's at is a little bit different, where some of the other ones were maybe higher percentages in other areas. So the reason that we wanted to bring this up is that it is important to keep in mind some questions to ask yourself. As we get to the end of the year, this is the time to be thinking about, did your insurance cover your last custom garment? Do you have a nighttime garment that needs to be replaced? Do you have a flexible spending account or a health savings account? Or have you reached your insurance deductible? These are all four really important questions, because if you've answered yes to these, this is the time that you have before the end of the year, that if you get those garments ordered, you could, especially if you've reached your insurance deductible, for example, this would be that time that you could maybe get that garment covered. So of course, insurance is different across the board for everybody. We are not insurance experts. That's where the durable medical equipment companies and national billers around the country are really the experts in this area. So they'll be able to answer these questions much better. But we highly recommend, if you haven't ordered your garment in the last year, for any of you that were 2 years to 6 years or never tried one before. If you've answered yes to any of these, this would be something to be able to talk about with your durable medical equipment company that you order your garments through, with your fitter, with your therapist, and see what options are available. So one thing that we like to highly stress is, some people think, okay, I can wait till the last second. And so we just wanted to remind everyone that DME, that durable medical equipment company, or the national billers have to place their orders with us by Thursday, December 22nd, which means they need to collect all your measurements before then. And that guarantees that we'll ship the garment this calendar year. If we get the garment after that, we can't guarantee that. And then let's say you've reached your insurance deductible. If the garment doesn't ship out of our facility, then it won't count towards this year's insurance. It would then count to next year. So you want to make sure, if you are interested in getting another nighttime garment, that you would want to get those placed right away, because if you don't, then it would count to next year's insurance. And if you've already met your insurance deductible this year, you might as well try to get that into this year's. So we did put a couple links. Esme is also going to drop this into the link, into the chat box as well. But if you're looking for somewhere to go to get a garment, we've got a link here for local places. We also have some national providers, which your therapist would have to take your measurements and submit those to the national providers, but they've got great contracts throughout the country. So depending on where you're at, there could be some different options between these two here. But also, if you have questions and you maybe want to ask a couple more questions and inquire more, if you want to maybe find out where you got your last garment because you don't remember, or maybe you're looking for someone who will bill your insurance for you, and maybe your last place that you went through didn't bill insurance, we can help connect you that way. So we've got our contact information on the screen. Esme is going to drop it in the chat box, but we are available to help talk through any of that with you, to help direct you to some good points of contact. So please let us know what we can do to help you, because we want to help and contribute to that nighttime success. So we're going to go into the questions. It looks like we've got 19 questions already in. Keep them coming. We are going to answer questions here until 6 o'clock, but we're going to start with those that were submitted in advance. So thank you guys to those of you that have submitted them in advance. We're going to expedite yours to the fast track and go through those first. So Esme, if you can read off the questions to me, and then I will answer them as they come along.
Yes, thank you very much, Lindsay, and thank you to all of those who submitted a question in advance. There's quite a few questions on Medicare and coverage, but this first one, their question was, why doesn't Medicare cover lymphedema care and garments? So if you could elaborate a little bit on that, Lindsay.
Thank you. I actually do serve on the Lymphedema Treatment Act board, and it is super unfortunate that that is not something that is covered. It's in a weird spot because when you look at something that's disposable, they build disposable things like a wound care dressing or a bandage, that's like a long stretch inside of an acute care facility, not necessarily short stretch bandages, but they're looking at that. And then you look at the other side and they cover durable, so a wheelchair or things like that. Well, compression falls in a really weird window based on that policy because garments typically last 6 months to a year. The garments actually don't fall in the category of disposable or durable. So it's somewhere in that middle category, and there isn't a category for it. So the Lymphedema Treatment Act, actually, if, for those of you that don't know, has gone through the House, and we're hopeful that it'll go through at the end of this year through the Senate, which could put that bill into law. We wouldn't see the effects probably until another year till all of those things are assessed. But it's been quite a few years of journeys that we're all been working through to try to fight for coverage across all of lymphedema treatment. And so it's been a challenge. Unfortunately, that's kind of the reality that we're facing. But we do try everything we do to work and support Lymphedema Treatment Act and try to fight and go against those insurance policies to try to encourage them to understand why it's so important. So I would highly recommend you checking out the Lymphedema Treatment Act organization if you don't already. We definitely want to make sure that we can do whatever we can to be able to push and drive the importance for these products and how much they bring better quality of life and better care and long-term success for all of you. And so we're definitely going to keep fighting that journey from an LNR perspective, and definitely encourage you guys to do that from the Lymphedema Treatment Act as well. But unfortunately, it's very unpredictable. And that's where we really look to the different insurance billers throughout the country to provide that guidance to you and whether you're going to have that coverage or not, because there are so many ins and outs of it.
Thank you, Lindsay. This next question is also related to insurance coverage, but could you elaborate a little more on co-pay payments and why those may change?
Yeah, so the copay payments, they do change. There's different fees and scheduling and changes that happen within these insurance policies. And as you probably know from your insurance that you maybe pay on a monthly basis through your company or pay privately, you're going to see that even those rates change every year. And so unfortunately, there's not much control of that. A lot of that's really dictated on how much the insurance company is willing to pay at that given time. It could be varying depending on how many garments you've ordered already that year. So there's a lot of ins and outs of it that are really hard to pinpoint exactly why, but there is kind of that market price fluctuation that happens, unfortunately. And I think that over the last couple of years, we've actually seen more of that increase.
Thank you, Lindsay. This next question, this patient stated that they've been ordering a TributeNight for several years now, but they want to know a list of providers in their area. Could you talk about that?
Yes, so that link that Esme is going to drop in the chat box, it's going to have local DMEs near you that are local places that you can look at and call and see if you can schedule an appointment for and see if they'd be able to bill insurance near, and then also take your measurements. If not, I recommend meeting with your therapist and looking at those national providers, because the national providers could be a really good option because they have national contracts, and especially in specific states. And so depending on where you're from, they may have different contracts in place. But Esme will send that, and that'll be a great that link for the national providers would be great for you to be able to see and maybe shop around a little bit to see what would be the best for you in your area. We also have online retailers, which a lot of people don't know about. You may look at companies that have an online site. And so then on those sites, you can buy off the shelf compression garments. So maybe some of you have gone to those sites before. So one of the things that not everyone knows, though, is they do also do cash pay. So they're not going to provide much in terms of the service of fitting or things like that, or billing insurance, but they will work with you on a good cash pay price. So if you don't have insurance coverage at all, you still want to get a nighttime garment, and you're looking for a great price, that could be a good option to choose. But if you do have insurance, I highly recommend going through those billers because they're going to help and really work for you to be able to fight those insurance companies. They do a lot of work internally to really be able to drive those insurance companies to pay as much as they can for the garments. So all three are great options. Each patient, it's going to be unique to what's best for you. And feel free to reach out to our customer service team if you have any specific questions. And we can also help direct you if you have any questions on the links that I provided.
Thank you, Lindsay. This next question asks why we changed our fabric on our garments. Can you talk about our cool core fabric?
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I know we talked about it earlier in the presentation. And so it is a different fabric, but we got overwhelming feedback from patients that were just asking, is there any way that you can, make this garment cooler? I would love to keep wearing my garment, but sometimes I take it off in the middle of the night and because it gets too hot. And so we did change it to the cool core fabric, and we're always looking at new fabrics that we can bring into the garment to enhance those experiences. And so the reason that we had switched the fabric a few years back is because we wanted to make sure that we were constantly providing a better wicking material that's going to get that stretch profile of the medium stretch that's going to help the foam nestle in, but also help keep that skin cool underneath the garment.
Thank you for touching on that again. And this next question, this patient mentioned that they have a lower extremity garment with the zipper in front, but they're wondering if a flat material can go over the top of the zipper area to protect the skin.
Yeah, definitely. So it is not something that default we would do, but if you are looking for something like that, I highly recommend that you talk to your therapist or talk to your fitter about what the challenge is, and then have them meet with our team, because we do have a design consultant team that can meet with your therapist or your fitter to be able to look at what those things are that you're wanting to do and find that solution. So we've had maybe a flap underneath the zipper to help protect the skin. But if you're looking for something to also go over the top edge of it as well, that's certainly something that we can do. Like we said, each garment is unique to your needs and what you're looking for. And so we want to make sure that if you're having any challenges, if you're like, it's, I don't like this thing because, it's causing, maybe some irritation from the zipper, put it down. We will work with you and work with your therapist or fitter to try to find a good solution for you. So for your next garment, I highly recommend making sure that they know that.
Thank you, Lindsay. We had quite a few questions in regards to our low profile versus original profile. Could you maybe go back and go over that again? So there was questions like, my garment fitter said that high profile garments were more affected than low profile, and if there was a price difference between them.
Yes, so the price is the same versus one versus the other, but each patient is going to respond differently. So we can't really have a uniform answer to be able to say, this is what you need, this is what you don't need, because everyone's tissue is different, everyone's presentation's different. So like I said, definitely consult with your medical professional. But one thing to keep in mind is that maybe you want to try the low profile, your therapist is open to it. You can try the low profile, and if it's not fitting quite right, in that first 45 days, you can send it back and we can make it in an original profiles, but it has to be in that first part of the warranty in order for that to happen. And so that would be something to keep in mind. But if your therapist recommends that you shouldn't be in a low profile because of things that they've experienced with other patients that they're seeing, follow their guidance. But just wanted to make sure you're aware of these options. And so far from people that I've talked to, they've seen great benefits both ways. But maybe someone who's maybe, has a harder time bending down to their heel, it may be a little bit, easier to pull on the original pillowy version versus the low profile. So there could be different things that people are experiencing depending on those situations.
Thank you, Lindsay. This next question is, how often do I need to replace a TributeNight garment?
So TributeNight garments do have a 1-year warranty. We have seen them last longer or shorter depending on a patient. When I look at, my brother and I, he could have a pair of tennis shoes that last him 2 months and they look horrible. And I could have it for 2 years and it could look great. And so you are going to want to look at that. But one thing to keep in mind is with compression therapy, the biggest goal is you want to have that medium stretch fabric. You want to make sure it's containing. And at the end of the day, fabric fatigues. And so you want to make sure that it does have that 1 year warranty. So I would say that you do want to look at renewing that garment. I've seen people holding on to garments for 10 years, but it's not going to be as effective because as the garment fatigue, it's not giving you the containment that you need. It's not allowing that foam to press into the tissue as well. So it's definitely something to keep in mind that we do highly recommend to update those garments. Definitely once a year if you can. Otherwise, every couple of years is definitely important. I would definitely not recommend once you get to that, 3, 4, 5, 6 years plus, the garment will start to fatigue. It does have a longer life than your daytime garments. Flat knit is 6 months. Adjustable Velcro, daytime wraps, that's 6 months. Nighttime garments is a year. It could last a little longer. But definitely want to make sure that you're not having those garments fatigue where it's not giving you the therapeutic benefits that you need.
Thank you, Lindsay. This next one is more of a comment, a question. Is there any chance that you would offer the fabric in teal again?
We always are, every couple of years we are reassessing the colors and things like that. We typically try to send out polls to anyone that has registered their TributeNight garment. And so when we do that, that's typically how we select what colors are going to be a part of the line, is by getting that feedback. So I would say definitely make sure to, if you've received this webinar, you would receive things like that. And we definitely will be assessing that again. And being able to look at some of the different colors, and maybe it's teal, maybe it's some other colors, but we definitely get a lot of feedback. We try to keep, some of the primary colors that we're going to be able to select based on what patients are submitting in those surveys. So I would just say stay tuned. We definitely will keep an eye on that, and there could be a chance it could come back or something similar.
All right, this next question is it better to wash on delicate or easy care?
I am not familiar with easy care. As long as it's some sort of like really gentle cycle, I would say that would be the best. So any of the gentle, delicate, permanent press, any of those, you just don't want to put it on like that heavy duty or normal. You want to be on the lower spectrum of that. So I'm not sure I'm familiar with that specific setting. I've not seen that on my own washer or my parents or the laundromat, but I would say as long as it's on the gentler side, that would be the side that you would want to follow along with.
All right, this next question is, can the toe spacer be incorporated into a leg garment, or would it be a separate piece?
So we can put the digit spacers in the glove or the arm sleeve covering the fingers, and we can put it in the lower extremity garments as well. So the below the knee or the leg or a pair of pants. We have found that people don't always like it between their toes. We've often seen that people try it and then don't like it as much. We've seen more people have better experience on the hands, but we definitely can build that into the garment. So that is something we can do for the lower leg.
This next question, this patient is saying that they've had their tribute for less than a year. Would we still take it in?
So you've had it for less than a year? They've had it for less than a year?
Yes.
Yeah, so if it's within the 1 year warranty, we do offer that reduction alteration. So you would want to go back to your fitter or the therapist if she was the one that placed he or she was the one that placed that garment order, but you're going to want to go back to wherever you got that garment from and let them know you'd like them to take it in. And then your fitter or your therapist will have to retake measurements to be able to fit your improved measurements. So we won't be able to work direct on that, but if you work with your fitter or therapist, wherever you got that garment ordered from, that's what we would need to start with.
Not really a question, but more of a comment to make sure to contact the senator's office this week so we can get the Lymphedema Treatment Act passed.
Definitely. And there is an easy link that's on the Lymphedema Treatment Act website that you can just click of a button, go and reach out to them. But it is really highly recommended to call versus email if you're comfortable and willing. We also have a link in the email that went out that was for this webinar specifically to be able to register. And if you scroll all the way to the bottom, we actually have a quick link there to their website as well. So definitely recommend to check that out. Thank you for sharing that feedback.
All right, this next question here, this patient is saying that they have fibrosis around their ankle area, and can something be done to help them in that ankle area? And how do providers learn about all of the adjustability we have to offer?
So let's start with the fibrosis one around the ankle. So if you have presentation where you have more fibrosis in a certain area, we could do multiple things. So it really just depends on the presentation. I do recommend, if you're comfortable, having your fitter or your therapist take pictures of those areas of the body, like your ankle, that you want them to specifically address, and to include that with your measurement form. And if we get those pictures, it's better to kind of see that presentation and what we're trying to do. The design center could look at that and say, you know, the best thing for this garment would be to add a Velcro adjustability so you can press that foam in more. They could look at it and say, let's add more foam in that specific area. There's a few different things that we could look at doing. So each person is going to be unique. So there isn't one answer for this. But I would say, please make sure that when you're getting a garment that you tell your therapist or your fitter, you know, about the areas that you want to make sure this garment is going to control and help and support. And all of the challenges, maybe if you do have a hard time bending down and touching your toes, or don't have dexterity in your hands, make sure to say, are there things that they could do? Is there pull-up loops? And trying to encourage some of that discussion with them. I think that that's really helpful. The other thing for the second question is, you had said, you know, what do we do if if we want to make sure that the providers know about the modification options? So most of them should know, but if not, tell them that you attended a webinar with LNR, you heard that there was Velcro, you think Velcro would be great for you, and have that conversation with them and your therapist about it. I would highly recommend doing that. Sometimes, you know, we have a team and there's people throughout the entire country, and you know, not everyone may know about it. It could be a newer fitter, it could be someone who just, you know, hadn't seen that yet. So you could be bringing them something new that could help not only you but other patients in the future as well. And we do have a brochure on our website. If you want to send the link into the chat box, you can also share the brochure and point out the pages that it's on.
Yes, I will put that in the chat box shortly. Let's see here. One other question. So this patient is saying that they ordered a TributeNight earlier this year, but they moved across the country. Can they get remeasured and get it altered?
So with that, you will have to call the place where you bought the garment and see what the options are. And you will most likely have to go see a therapist in the place that you are at to take new measurements. So it's a little bit more complicated. We do have a team. Esme did put the contact information. If you have further questions, we can have a one-on-one conversation on that to be able to help you further. But I would definitely recommend the first thing to do is to reach out to where you got your last garment. Let them know that you would like to use the reduction alteration that comes with the garment, and then go from there.
I think our time is up. We went over 2 minutes. All other questions we will answer separately. There were quite a few thank yous in there, so thank you very much, Lindsay, for the presentation and for answering all the questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And Esme, I actually could answer a couple more. I think if we want to take a couple more minutes, I think there's not too many left. We can try to maybe rapid speed, try to get through just a couple more.
Okay. Yeah. So this next question says, how do you recommend disregarding an old garment?
So we don't have a specific answer for that. I think different people do different things. Unfortunately, I think, you know, usually once you have that garment fatigue, you don't want to give it to someone else because you want to make sure that it's, you know, going to be a brand new garment for someone who's going to be wearing it. So there's not too much we can do in terms of the recycling of it, unfortunately. But if you have any creative ideas, we'd love to hear them. We always want to look at things that we can do to really help build a sustainable environment. And so if there are things that you have as suggestions, please feel free to share it with us through our contact email that was in the chat box.
This other question says, I have a lymphedema pump for my legs. I put it on when I go to bed and stay in the pump until I wake up. Do I still need to add my night garments when I take off my pump in the morning? I'm not sure.
I put on a pump when I go to bed and stay in my pump until okay. So for something like that, so I would definitely recommend talking to your medical professional. I think everyone's going to be a little different. I have heard that a lot of patients like to actually wear their TributeNight underneath their compression pump. So that is definitely something that a lot of people have done. We don't have specific clinicals on that. But I do know that a lot of patients have really enjoyed that experience. So that is something that we've seen from talking to different people. But I would say talk to your medical professional. I think pumps tend to be, from my experience, typically something you wear for an hour or a couple hours a day. I've not heard about it for overnight use. So I would just talk to your medical professional about that specifically.
Thank you, Lindsay. This next question says, my impressions do not go away in 15 minutes. It takes up to an hour or so. Why is that?
So, like I said before, everyone's a little bit different. It's not a bad thing that the impressions are staying. That means that that foam's really pressing into your tissue. And depending on the type of tissue that you have, the impressions take longer or shorter to go away. But I would say it's not a bad thing. That means that foam is really getting in there. It's nestling into the tissue. And so that's something that it is effective, and it's clearly effective for you if you're seeing those impressions even for a whole hour afterwards. But definitely keep wearing that garment. It means that it's really getting in there and working, but there is maybe, more of that addressing that it's doing to your tissue. So I would say thank you for sharing that. I have not heard someone having the impressions last quite that long. Maybe some people more than 15 minutes, but on average, it's been around there. So it's great to hear what other people are saying and what they're seeing so that I can make sure that I'm addressing that when I talk to other people so that people don't get alarmed if it's not going away in 15 minutes.
Thank you, Lindsay. This next question, you already talked a little bit about our providers, but this patient said that they couldn't find somewhere that would fit them near them. They only have one person within 100 miles from their zip code. What can they do?
So with that situation, I would recommend going to your therapist and having your therapist measure. That would be the best option. And then the therapist could submit the ordering form with the measurements to a national provider who could bill the insurance. So that would be the best case scenario, is to do that route. They could also send it to an online retailer if there's no insurance involved, and you could do that for a cash pay price because 100 miles is a long distance to go. So definitely think that the therapist route may be the best, especially if there's someone at a closer proximity.
Thank you, Lindsay. And this next question is, do you still offer a jacket? I think they meant outer jacket for the low profile tribute garments.
Yep, we can definitely do an outer jacket for the low profile garments as well as the original profile.
This next question says, if somebody orders the low profile garment for the first time and they really don't like it, can they swap it out for a regular profile at no charge?
So that would be in the first 45 days. That is something that we can do. There may be some shipment charges included depending on what the service provider, so the durable medical equipment company or the national provider services are. But that would just be the shipping part of it, but it wouldn't be on the additional part of it. I see we have a poll question that they asked if we could see if people like the low profile, and 43% said yes. We don't have the ability to add the poll questions, but I can say from talking to patients that have tried the low profile that I've seen really positive feedback on it. But there are certainly still people that prefer the original profile. So it is a preference.
Yes. This next question, are these garments also used for patients with POTS?
I'm not sure specifically. I think we'd have to look at that that separately. I'm not quite sure if we want to get into the medical treatment. That might be a one-on-one conversation with your lymphedema therapist or with your doctor. So I don't think that's something we can unfortunately answer today as we're not medical professionals.
And one more question here. Can you do a combination of low profile and original profile? Can you talk a little bit more about that, Lindsay?
Yep, and it looks like that's from Catherine Rosenberg. Hi, Catherine. I know Catherine well. So yes, we can do a combination of low and original profile. We certainly can mix and match those things. We could choose one versus the other, but that's definitely something that we can do. And then someone did say that the low profile did not work as well for them on a petite female with smaller legs with a little bit of swelling. So that's something you definitely want to look at, see how that's working, how you're responding to it, and be able to address that. So that would be something that you may, if you decide to try it, may want to take us up on that first fit to be able to try it in the other format. And then we do have some specific questions on insurance. I don't think we can answer that specifically. I would recommend reaching out to those national billers or the durable medical equipment companies to be able to provide more insight. And then it does look like the last two are a little bit more specific. And so I think that what we'll do is we'll reach out to you, Beverly and Robin specifically, and be able to go through some of those questions that you have specific to your garment. It looks like there's some things that are unique that we want to make sure that we can really help you with and help answer your questions. So Esme will actually be reaching out tomorrow. So keep an eye out for an email so that she can schedule time to talk to you so that we can really have that one-on-one discussion to really be able to make sure that we can really help support you and your needs. So with that, I think we're going to close it out for the day. Thank you guys so much for attending. Thanks to all of you that stayed on a little bit longer. We really appreciate your time, and we hope that you have a wonderful evening and look forward to having webinars with you guys again in the future. So thank you very much, and we will be in touch.